So let's move on to caring for the carer. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about certain techniques that we can use to help ourselves. So trauma continues to intrude with visual, auditory and or other somatic reality on the lives of its victims. Again and again they relive the life-threatening experiences they have suffered, reacting in mind and body as though such events were still occurring. This is taken from Rothschild, The Body Remembers. We can directly train our arousal system by the way we breathe, chant and move, a principle that has been utilised since time immemorial in places like China and India and every religious practice, taken from Van der Kolk's The Body Keeps the Score. So we know there's loads written around and lots of research around how the body holds trauma. Trauma is held in our body. And how can we release that? And with clients, sometimes when I'm using EMDR, they will talk about a tingling sensation, or they might even start shaking, and I reassure them that that's a natural process and it's the body releasing the trauma. Shaking is healthy, but like we do the blanket and the cup of tea and we try to sort of suppress it, but it's actually really healthy. And Peter Levine talks about, in his book, Waking the Tiger, how an animal will shake it off if it's been attacked. It will go and shake rigorously, it will sleep and it will eat. And it won't beat itself up the next day and say, I should have ran faster, I wish I could have hid better, which is what we do, which keeps the trauma alive. And I remember when I was in hospital after my being knocked unconscious, and they wanted to take an x-ray of my head, and they thought I had a fractured skull. And the nurse was saying, you've got to keep still, you've got to keep still. And I was shaking. And I remember holding onto the bars of the hospital bed, desperately trying to stop myself shaking. And didn't understand then what that meant, but now understand how important that was. So what makes us more vulnerable as therapists? Well, there's lots of research around mirror neurons. I'm not going to, that's a whole presentation in itself, but basically our neurons start firing in the same way as when we're listening to someone's story, if we're empathic, if we're intuitive. If we see things in images, which I often do, that can make us also more vulnerable to vicarious trauma. We're often told, don't imagine the person's story in images, but it's quite difficult. And then with the media, obviously, encouraging that too. I remember being on the EMDR training, and we were told, if you're really impacted by someone's story, move yourself slightly to the side. So you're moving your solar plexus, so it's not directly facing the other person's solar plexus. That's around the belly area, just below the belly button area. But we can take on that energy. It can feel quite contagious. The good news is there's lots of self-care resources that we can use. And it's taken from one of the chapters in my book, which is the Building a Resilience Toolkit. And it's based on the acronym RESPECT. So R for relaxation, finding ways to calm and relax the body. E for education, understanding the mechanics of trauma, bringing that cognitive part of the brain back online. S for social, we know there's so much research on social networks and social connections being a great resource when people have been through a traumatic incident. P for physical, and E for exercise. I've kept them separate because exercise is more active and the physical is more about shaking it off, stretching, those kinds of things, which is important. And then C for creativity. We know if we activate that part of our brain, that can really help with trauma recovery. And T for thinking, so challenging those negative thoughts, those berating thoughts that we can often have after a trauma experience.